Good morning, sir. I hope you are doing fine. Today I'll be presenting on my seminar presentation, and the topic of my presentation is sustainable development. The overview of my presentation today, first of all, I'll be talking about what is sustainable development, the importance of sustainable development, moving on to the challenges of sustainable development, why it should be taught in primary school, how it can be taught in primary school, and then finally my conclusion, reference, and thought of the day. So to begin with my presentation today, what is sustainable development? When we talk about sustainable development, it talks about the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. It simply means that whatever we are satisfied with now during the present, it should be as the same for our future generation. Whatever resources we are using nowadays, it should be the same for the future generation. Sustainable development is also a way of organizing society so that it exists in the long term. So when we talk about long term, it's referring to infrastructure such as good road conditions, how sustainable development can help to implement these initiatives. And long term, also we are talking about extending of electricity to some rural areas. For example, in Sabsawu, most of the rural areas, they have solar and not electricity. So through sustainable development, this electricity can also be extended to rural areas. And finally, sustainable development is organizing principle for meeting human development goals or the sustainable development goals, which is 17 goals altogether, while simultaneously sustaining the ability of natural resources such as our marine ecosystem, our land ecosystem. Why? Because we, the people, we depend on this ecosystem or on these resources for survival. Moving on to the three pillars of sustainable development, the three major common pillars of sustainable development are society, economy, and environment development. So when we talk about society development, we're looking at the welfare of the community, welfare of the family. When we talk about welfare, it simply referring to the belonging, how our surrounding in our family. The equal opportunity. When we talk about equal opportunity, it is referring to gender equality, such as equal decision, equal opportunity to be given to men and females. And then social cohesion. Social cohesion is all about connectiveness between people in the community, how they interrelate with each other, how they socialize. And then we talk about international solidarity. International solidarity is all about unity. For example, in a particular community, there is an individual family and a Itoke family. So we need to establish some sort of unity, accept each other's differences. And finally, maintenance of human capital. When we talk about human capital, we're referring to money, how we in the society are managing money wisely, how we in the family are using money, ways or the source of income. Moving on to the economic development. We talk about economic development, we talk about the economic growth. So economic growth is all about national wealth, whether it is increasing or decreasing, but economic growth only deals with the increasing in the national wealth, not only in the government but also in the different business sectors. How efficient or competitiveness it is running, competition between local business as well as other business sectors from other countries. Flexibility and stability, production and consumption, the kind of resources we are producing, how we are consuming these resources, providing employment to the people, source of employment, and international trade, trading of goods and services within the country as well as the other countries around the world. And finally, environment development. It's all about how we are consuming the resources around us, how we are making use of these resources, also how the materials are waste are being taken into consideration, materials such as trees, which provide shelters, the risk, how we are managing the risk in our environment, rate of change. When we talk about rate of change in the environment, it is referring to the climate change such as rising sea level, and natural and cultural landscape, how we as the people are conserving our natural, our cultural or traditional aspects. Moving on to the importance of sustainable development. Why is sustainable development so important? Sustainable development is very important because it helps our country to grow in ways that adapt to the challenges posed by climate change. So these challenges such as seawalls, how sustainable development has helped in controlling the rising sea levels. One of the initiatives which they are doing is constructing seawalls so that it prevents our land from being washed away. Why this is so important? Because it will protect our natural resources for ours as well as for our future generation. Secondly, to conserve what exists, whatever exists around our environment, we need to make use of this. That's all why sustainable development is very important. Restore what has been damaged, for example, cutting off trees. How can we restore these resources? Building shelter, provide shelters. And prevent future harms. How we can prevent future harms such as deforestation, soil erosion, air pollution, and noise pollution. And lastly, another importance of sustainable development, it fulfills the need of people, conserve natural resources, helps in the coordination between natural resources and people, and conserves natural resources for future generations. So how it is implementing this initiative? By implementing laws which build a range between us people and how we use these resources around our environment. Some of the challenges of sustainable development. Okay, one of the major challenges of sustainable development is poverty and exclusion. As we know that, as we have studied in this unit, that Fiji lies under 34% of poverty in our country. Therefore, this is one of the major challenges of sustainable development, especially in trying to provide assistance to these people. So that's why this is one of the major challenges of sustainable development, as well as their exclusion. So some communities where people are facing this poverty line, they are being excluded from some of our community members. That's why it is one of the greater challenges which is faced by the sustainable development. Unemployment. As sustainable development is progressing, more machines, more technology are being introduced. Therefore, unemployment is one of the major challenges why some people or some workers are being asked to resign from their job because they have machines which can operate these sorts of activities. Climate change, as I have mentioned, such as sea level rise, not only sea level rise. When we talk about climate change, we're talking about diseases, the spread of diseases as which we are encountering right now in our country. For example, COVID-19. Conflict and humanitarian aid. This is one of the challenges not only faced in our country, but in also other parts of the world. Conflicts between people, between organizations, between politicians, and humanitarian aid, providing assistance to people living in the rural areas, living in the small islands development. That's why it is one of the major challenges of this development. Building strong institutions of government and supporting the rule of law. Why should sustainable development be taught in primary school? Student needs to learn about the world. Sustainable development concept, it helps students learn about their surrounding. It helps students learn about the resources around them so that it can develop insights into critical issues around the world such as corruption and gender equality. So through this concept, if it is taught in school, students will develop more understanding about the issues which we are surrounded with. It enables students to develop the knowledge, values, and skills to participate in decisions about the way we do things individually and collectively, both globally and locally, that will improve the quality of life now and without damaging the planet of the future. So if this concept is taught in school, students will know how to make use, how to conserve the natural resources so that they could think of the other future generations which are also coming up. Engaging and empowering for students. So this concept, it empowers students, it allows them to take responsibility for life actions and to contribute their vision for a sustainable future. So if this concept is taught in school, it will empower students to take responsibility of the resources around them, how they can make use of some sort of these resources. How can sustainable development can be taught in primary school? How it can be taught in primary school? First of all, construct field trips. Take students for a field trip where they go and do some sightseeing, for example, agricultural sector, so they know some of the initiative which this agricultural sector are doing in trying to promote sustainable development. It will enhance the understanding more as they see what real life situation is all about sustainable development. Outdoor activities such as planting trees, gardening, picking up rubbish, so we can do this in schools. This is one of the major way in which sustainable development can be practiced in primary school. Planting trees, take students out, do some planting, do some gardening, so the students know more about these resources. Using models to represent sustainable environment. And lastly, place-based learning or environmental education. This place-based learning is all about, instead of learning inside the classroom, you take students outside so that it connects the students' learning with the outside environment as well, and engaging learners with the nature itself. And then finally, my conclusion. So in my conclusion, I have stated the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. From number 1 is no poverty. That's why Fiji is really trying its best to combat this issue. Number 2, zero hunger, good health and well-being, providing health assistance. 4th, quality education, in which we can see it's really practiced in our country, providing free education for lower and high secondary as well as tertiary, providing scholarships such as TELS and TOPAS. 5th one is gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth. The 9th goal is industry innovation and infrastructure, in which we can see most of our business infrastructure are really progressing. The 10th goal is reduce inequalities. 11th, sustainable city and communities, responsible consumption and production. Climate action, that is the 13th goal. Fiji is really working towards combating these climate change actions. Life below water, the life of the marine ecosystem out there. Life on land, the 16th goal is peace, justice and strong institutions. And lastly, partnerships for the goals, how Fiji is working towards achieving these goals. And finally, my references and my thought of the day. Sustainable development is the peace policy of the future, according to Dr. Klaus Toffer. It is indeed, sustainable development is the piece of policy. Why? Because sustainable development provides us with the resources which satisfy our needs, not only for now but also for our future generation. Thank you.